as well. So just to start off, my name is Jeff Brown, and my background, I was involved in the CQF for many years. I had a relationship with Paul Wilmot from the CQF's inception in January 2003 up until April 2017. I've got now a very strong relationship with WBS Training and Paul Bilokon. And Paul and I, our relationship goes back quite some time. And we together, we work on the Quantitative Developer Certificate and the Machine Learning Institute Certificate. So these are the two programs that we run. They're very popular, and as you'll see, the faculty involved in this program, as well as the content of this program, are the reasons why this is so popular. So what are we going to take you through today? I'm going to introduce you to Paul in a moment. If you don't know him already, which I'm sure you do, we'll talk about what exactly the QDC is about and why it's very beneficial as well. We'll talk about the QDC faculty, the candidate profiles, both professional and academic. This is really important, actually, because if you don't fit into one of these profiles, then you wouldn't be admitted onto the QDC program, because the last thing that we want is for what you're learning to go way over your head and you not to understand any of the concepts. And that's our responsibility as well in terms of who we admit onto the program. We're going to go through the QDC syllabus. That's something that Paul is going to take you through in quite a bit of detail. We'll talk about the study partner program and the help desk, and then we'll finish off with a Q&A session. Or we can have the Q&A session as we're taking you through the slides. So any questions that come up, feel free to ask. So who is Paul? Well, he's very, very well educated. He's an extremely bright man, educated at Oxford and Imperial. He spent 17 years working primarily in the banking sector, and he started off as a quant and then transitioned to become a quant trader, and then moved his way up in the world to become a director. He also founded the Thylesians, which I'm sure you've heard of. This is a world-renowned organization. It's literally got thousands of LinkedIn followers. He's also lecturing maths for computer science at Imperial. So I think for this particular topic area, quantitative developer certificate or quantitative development, he's absolutely ideal. And his two sidekicks will tell you about in a second as well. There's a faculty of 3, which is very unusual for this kind of program, but it is brilliant because it's a lot more unified. There's a much smoother transition from one lecture to another, from one module to another, and so on. So what is it? What is the QDC? It's a very comprehensive 6-month part-time program. And there are live lectures. Actually, forget London. They're streamed globally. So, wherever you may be in the world, you'll be able to watch these lectures live, or you can watch the lectures recorded. The program consists of 5 modules, a total of 23 lecture weeks. There are practical assignments, there are end of module tests, there's a final exam, which again can be taken from anywhere in the world. And the course objective is to develop fundamental skills in quantitative developer role designed by practitioners from quantitative finance with experience in model development for derivative pricing and systematic trading. I've read that because that really is what this program is about. And I don't think it can be put more succinctly than whoever wrote that particular bullet point, probably Paul, actually. So the faculty, as I mentioned, is 3 instructors. I'll let you know who they are. Of course, Paul is one of them. I'll let you know who they are in a second. They're all specialists in the field of quant finance. We'll take you through, as we break down the syllabus, we'll talk about Python and C++ and KDB, which are the programming languages that we take you through. And it is very, very applied, this program. So this is a professional qualification. This isn't a university program. This is absolutely a professional qualification. And by that, I mean that, you know, it's not sort of theory heavy. You practice what we preach in a way. You're going to be practicing that during the course of the 6 months, so that frankly, by the end of the 6 months, you should know more about these programming languages than anybody else. Because what we tend to find, you know, if there's somebody who heads up, let's say, quant development at, I don't know, Morgan Stanley, they zone in on the Morgan Stanley way of doing things. And they have specific objectives, you know, at Morgan Stanley within their desk, which sits as a function within the division, and that division serves the purpose of the company's objectives and their strategies to meet those objectives. So they're more confined in a way, right? The head of quant development at Morgan Stanley or any of these other financial services institutions, they've got very, very specific roles and functions. Whereas this is 6 months taking you through really every aspect of these programming languages, so that, you know, when it comes to, I mean, if, for example, you were to go for an interview at one of these places and you've done the QDC, you should be able to tell them a thing or two that they don't know about these programming languages. That's how comprehensive this program is. So the benefits are, it's got a very strong reputation. It is very career focused, and by that I, you know, mean either that if you're already working in this area, then you should be. This should help you to move onwards and upwards within your organization. Or if you're not working in this area and want to get into this area, then this should this should help you enormously, just because of the knowledge and the tools that you acquire as you go through the 6-month program and after the 6-month program as well. So we don't just let you go. There's a very strong community of all those who've gone through the QDC program. So there is an individual commitment to career development. As I say, the lectures are streamed live. You can either watch them live or anywhere in the world. This takes place twice a year in October and April. The learning is of practical value. That's the emphasis really of this program. That's how it was designed. It's taught by very highly experienced practitioners and academics. Paul being, if you like, the academic on this program, although with 17 years as a practitioner, you know, to call him exclusively an academic would be doing him a disservice. It's led by Paul. The alumni also benefit from continuous education. So once you finish the program, there are additional kind of lifelong learning lectures that take place, which are expanding all the time. And you have access to all the materials, all the webinars, and all future QDC programs as well. So we're updating the syllabus continually. I mean, you know, the ever-changing landscape of the world that we live in at the moment, you know, and with quant development, that's changing all the time. It's evolving all the time. So the syllabus does need to be updated every 6 months, and it is updated every 6 months. And these are Paul's sidekicks. We've got Ivan Zdankin, who works at JP Morgan. He's a systematic trader, also part of the Thilesians. And Saeed Amin is another brilliant man, as well as working professional. He's the co-founder of Turnleaf Analytics, which I think he founded in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. He's also a lecturer at Queen Mary College at the University of London. The profile of candidates who go through this program is vast, really. It's as I say, this is a global community. The vast majority of delegates who do this program are from around the world, outside the UK. And you will have access to QDC alumni once you're enrolled onto the program, so that you can, join in the discussions and so on, as well as the faculty members. For those of you who've joined us, incidentally, Andy, George, hello, George. I know George. And Sarab, if you've got any questions, unmute yourselves. Okay, this is. I was saying at the beginning of this presentation that we had one or two issues with the joining instructions. So it's good that we're a small number for today's information session, and what that means is that you don't have to use the chat box. If you want to, if you've got a question to ask, then please do. And just unmute yourselves and fire away. So the candidate profiles for this for the QDC are as follows. Quantitative, so you need to fit into one of these profiles in order to be admitted onto the program. Quant analysts, risk managers, actuaries, hedge funds, asset managers, IT. Quant traders, those working in insurance, model validation, risk managers. That's written twice, actually. Need to take that bullet out for the next presentation. Data scientists, derivatives, structurers, and then on the academic side, computer scientists, maths, physics, banking and finance, and engineering. And what I would suggest is that if you do decide to enroll and you don't fit within one of those profiles, then you need to get in touch with us, because this may not be for you. In fact, it's highly likely this isn't for you if you don't fit within one of those profiles. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, the last thing that we want is for you to enroll into the program only to find that this just goes way over your head and you don't understand a lot of the concepts being taught. Employing institutions for candidates, these are some of them. There are many others as well, some of whom won't allow us actually to put their names on this presentation. But as I said earlier, this is an incredibly popular program. It's a global program. The brand of this program is pretty amazing. It's very different, by the way, to the CQF. Very different. It's chalk and cheese. This really does go very specifically into programming languages, and I'll let Paul take you through exactly what this program is about in a second. So your QDC journey begins here with this information session. We're about to take you through the course details. The session is recorded, so if you want to review this information session, then you're more than welcome. If you decide to enroll, you apply online. The admissions team will come back to you normally within a day, actually, but we say a maximum of 3 working days. When it gets busy in terms of enrollments, that's when it can be 3 days. Students receive a full set of course materials and textbooks before the start of the program, and then you begin the program. So you start beginning of module 1. They vary in length. Some of them are less than a month, some of them are more than a month. As I mentioned earlier, there's an online test at the end of each module and a final unseen written exam at the end of the program. And this is where I palm you off to the wonderful Paul Bilokon. Paul, over to you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for this Wonderful introduction, Jeff. I mean, this is very, very encouraging. I mean, this thing that you see over my head is actually a light source. It's not a halo. I mean, I thought that by spending many years programming, you kind of develop this sort of sanctity. But I don't think that I actually have achieved that level. In fact, maybe quite the opposite. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, that's okay. Maybe we should move. Okay, let's just keep it there. Okay, so what can I say? I mean, you have to be able to write code nowadays. Yeah, I think it's probably less important to know maths, I would say, because what's happening is a lot of the techniques are becoming more kind of out of the box. You know, kind of you can use things like ChatGPT and so on, but you need to be able to connect these things together. You need to be able to connect to exchanges. You need to be able to write some code, whatever work you are doing. Okay, so I would say this software development side is becoming much more important. So I've been developing even before I started my career in finance, which was, I think, full-time. I started in 2005. I think I actually started 2003-ish when I first interned at Morgan Stanley, and this is when I started learning to code. I mean, I did a lot of work on that at universities, but I mean, later on I started to code at financial institutions on the sell side and also on the buy side. And the languages that were used back then were kind of different because everyone had to probably know MATLAB at the time. So we used a lot of MATLAB at Lehman Brothers. You had to know Java because Java was just kind of gaining popularity at the time. And what nowadays is happening, everyone has to know Python, right? That goes without saying. Everyone has to know Python. Yeah, so that's your core language. Even if your system is not written in Python, you will be prototyping in Python. You will be using Python as glue to kind of stitch together the various components of the system. And in addition to that, you would probably be using C++ because C++ is fast. What happened is the derivatives pricing industry has been using C++ probably, since the 1990s, and it still is a C++ driven industry. And also HFT is almost exclusively C++ nowadays. Everything that is high frequency, where latency matters, and there are many of these things. There is now something called real-time AI as well. I mean, that is also primarily low latency C++, so you kind of cannot get away without knowing C++. C++ is a difficult language to learn, more difficult than Python, but you get a sort of, you get a salary premium if you are good at C++. Then KDB again. So nearly every major every major sell-side institution is a client of KX First Derivatives and is using KDB for various purposes, for storing data, for capturing real-time data, and for dealing with very large volumes of data. That's why you really need to know KDB and its underlying programming language Q. So how do we do this? We deliver this through a set of recorded, well, actually live lectures. They're streamed. They're streamed from various locations. They're streamed from wherever we are in the world. We do record them. You can watch them afterwards. But I mean, during the live lecture, if you join the streamed lecture, you can ask questions. You can, if you want to interrupt the lecturer, or depending on the lecture style, you can ask questions at the end of the lecture. Then you also get to do assignments and tests, primarily multiple choice tests to make sure that you are following the moduli. the modules, and then you also get to do an exam. And there are lots and lots of examples of real life sessions that are included throughout this course. In addition to this kind of standard content, we also provide ad hoc webinars where, you know, we invite people to talk on interesting subjects in quantitative development. So basically what I just told you, right, I told you about the importance of these things. So Python is taught by Saeed Amen. Saeed is very well known in the industry. He's written several books, including his latest book on alternative data. And a great speaker, great presenter. And he really knows how to teach Python. So that's your introduction to programming and to Python programming specifically. Module 1, I think it's 4 lectures on Python. Not just Python, but also the libraries. How can I work with data using Python? How can I connect to Bloomberg? How can I use Quantum? How can I develop trading strategies? How can I compute volatility, for example? Right? Lots of interesting things. Then we proceed to databases. We look at KDB, and I deliver this module on KDB. I show you how basically teach the foundations of KDB in this module as well. Again, there is a massive premium if you are a quant, if you are in this industry, if you know KDB. It's really good for your career. I mean, another thing why KDB is really good is because you can actually compute things, right? So imagine you join a major financial institution and you can, you know, if you know how the database works, if you know KDB, you can probably compute the instantaneous P&L in minutes, right? And it may so happen that in some systems, people don't have a clear picture of what's going on with risk and with P&L across the bank. Then we have C++, taught by Ivan Zhdankin, an experienced quant with lots of practical knowledge. So first we introduce C++. We look at the fundamentals of C++. This is module 3. This is what I mean. C++ is a difficult language, right? So we use this module to first of all introduce to C++ and the standard library to teach you to think in C++. And then the next module, module 4, will teach you to do non-trivial programming in C++, how to work with data structures, how to work with algorithms, how to put them together. If you have looked at C++ before, there is something called STL, which is a collection of data structures such as vectors and maps and sets and so on. And this is a bunch of algorithms. And also you really need to understand this stuff if you want to pass a quant analyst, quant developer interview in the city of London or on Wall Street. Then module 5 is we really teach you to build. It's actually much more high level because I mean I do a lot more talking. I basically tell you how to build trading systems, and I also tell you how to build. High frequency trading systems. So in this module I tell you how the hardware works. You know, why sometimes you may want to use GPUs, sometimes you may want to use FPGAs. And I also explain you how networking works, how to connect to exchanges and things like that. So very, very practical module 5. Okay, that's a very brief, high-level view of the syllabus. So now over to Jeff, because Jeff will tell you more about the program.
Okay. Thanks very much, Paul. That was very succinctly described. Thanks a lot. Okay, so just briefly then, we do have a study partner program, and which means that if you wanted to study the QDC with somebody from your organization, assuming there are 2 of you, who are studying on the same cohort, we'll arrange that. Similarly, somebody from your own country or region, if you want to find a partner to study with in your region, then we're more than happy to arrange that. It can work really well, actually, doing that. Or somebody who's studying in a similar role to you. That can be very effective. Or somebody studying in a role that you want to get into. So studying with somebody who's already in that role can also be very educational. And we've got the help desk. So this is, it's done through a forum, and it's very comprehensive. The help desk this is a global program. It's streamed globally. So the help desk is the response time is very quick indeed. We take everybody's questions and queries extremely seriously, and there can be a discussion as well on the forum. So this isn't just for questions. This is also to get into discussions about certain topic areas on the program, or maybe even things that are out there in the press to be discussed. So all these things are part of the overall package, if you like. So we do have a QDC employment service, which is extremely comprehensive. But I have to emphasize this more strongly than maybe even anything else in this presentation, which is that the service is for self-funded applicants only. So naturally, if you're sponsored by a company to go through the program, then we can't help you to move to another organization. I don't know if that would be a criminal offence, but certainly not a good thing to do. So yeah, this is specifically for self-funded applicants, and we have a vast network available to us, not just with the QDC faculty, but also with the MLI faculty, the Machine Learning Institute faculty, who are based all over the world. The alumni of both of these programs, the faculty have massive networks, as do the alumni. My background, Paul's background as well. It's huge, the network we have. So this is a genuine service for those who do graduate from the program, who sponsored themselves through the program. We do help as much as possible to get you the interviews and to get you the jobs that you're looking for. We also provide interview coaching. So this is really important because, when you're going for quant jobs, if you look on LinkedIn at quant jobs, you'll see how competitive that market is. It's incredibly competitive. So we start by making sure your CV is absolutely top quality, the highest of standards, because there are many CVs out there. If you're going for one job, you can have up to 50 applicants going for the same job. You can have even over 100 applicants. So your CV has to stand out, just in terms of the way it's formatted. But what we also do is try to get you interviews directly. Okay, so from our own contacts, we know what knowledge and skills you have acquired once you've been through this program. So if it comes, for example, to a quant developer role, we have every confidence in getting in touch with our contacts and saying, look, this person is looking for a job, he's just done this program, so we know that he's got what it takes. Will you speak to him? And that's how we try to start things off. When it comes to the interview situation, then the part of the coaching is that you need to do as much research as you possibly can. So it's not just the job spec that's important. It's how does the role fit into the desk or the team that you're going to be working for? What's that team's function within the organization? And so on. And doing as much reading as you possibly can around the role, around the organization, around their competitors, around the current trends in the marketplace. And together with what you've learned on the program, you should be able to turn up to the interview once you've done all the work that you need to do, with automatically the questions that you need to ask, and the questions should pop up from their responses, and the responses of the people who are interviewing you as well. There should just be naturally questions popping up, and a genuine curiosity as to what this is going to be like. You know, what were the challenges? What's been their biggest challenges in the last 12 months? And are any of those challenges going to affect your role if you are chosen for the role, and if you do decide to choose the role, then are those challenges going to affect you? And if so, how? So there's all sorts of things that you need to do in order to really get to the front of the queue for interview situations, and we help you, comprehensively with all of that. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, then if you want to do it through the chat box, you can. Otherwise, you can unmute yourself and fire away.
Hello, this is George.
Hello, George.
Hi. My questions are, firstly, concerning the mathematical underpinnings of the course. Do you provide a rigorous exposition of the maths involved, or do you just go straight into some programming coma?
This isn't a maths course, right? We don't really do a lot of maths here.
So if you don't know the maths, how do you get to it?
You don't need like heavy maths for this course. It's you don't really need heavy maths for programming. You do need it if you want to build trading strategies, and sometimes, but not always. You probably need maths if you want to do.
My math is pretty good, but I still would like to have a clear description of some of these algorithms in a mathematical terms.
I mean, we but I mean, it's not.
I don't want to be plugged into this like in a way which doesn't give me the basic understanding. So if you're not doing that, then it really wouldn't be suitable to me.
I think we are quite rigorous in the way we deliver this course, right?
You are.
We are quite rigorous, yeah.
So you start from the ground up in terms of any maths that you need to do.
George, this isn't honestly. What Paul is saying is you need to take that at face value. You don't need. There is not a maths prerequisite to do this programming course.
Okay, but there's all sorts of stuff that's been derived and developed, so people don't know why you're starting with this particular formula. What if you don't know? Well, how are you going to get it?
This is you've done CQF. I'm aware of that because we've spoken a few times, and the CQF is very, very different. You need maths on the CQF. Absolutely. There's a maths primer on the CQF. This is chalk and cheese, the CQF and the QDC. It really is. This is programming. And I think that if you're not in, and so also in answer to your question as well, Gagan, if you want to do a programming course, then this is for you. Okay?
If you don't, it's just that there are going to be bits of math that I need, and I would like to know that they are treated rigorously. That's all. Just a simple question. All right, that's one question for you. Please come up with the answer sometime. The other part is, what about
We've answered you, George.
Well, you didn't. The other part of it is the trading stuff. Economics or econometric inputs. how do you get them if you're not trained as a trader? If you've got a more or less pure math physics background, how are you going to find out how some of these things are put together?
Understand?
It's the same question. I think it's the same question as before.
No, not the same question. There are different. These are different disciplines. These are different disciplines. One is simply, well, stuff coming from the real world. You know, like stochastic process, whatever, that have a systematic theory behind them. And then there's the other part of it, which is simply the way the world is organized, you know, with trading floors and exchanges and God knows what there is. You need to understand that, and I don't. And I haven't been told how to do that. It's not included in the, and the assumption is all your bots will have already experienced this because they come from that sort of environment. And if you don't, are you going to provide that?
Okay, let me maybe take the part of this question that you have asked, and so if you go to module 5, right? I mean, I'm not sure, Jeff, if you can actually switch back to the slide in module 5. So this is where we look at how exchanges are set up, these things work. Right. So in module 5, we actually consider how all this is put together.
Okay, so you've got that in as a piece of syllabus.
That's correct.
Okay, well that's fine. Doing that. Okay.
I have a question about what George asked. It's really interesting, this part where math for modules and programming. I did spend a few years in working in quant teams, and from my perspective, from my experience, quant team, they subdivided into two parts. There are math people who develop models, right? They usually PhDs in finance math, and many of them from Imperial, by the way. This is what I meant. And other people do technology, like connecting to exchanges, using APIs, making sure that those models work in distributed environment. Because sometimes math people use libraries like in C++, Levmar, for example. It's not thread safe, and it's really hard to make it distributed, right? Parallel processing. So I was on technology side, and what about the math? Like this is what George asked. We learn in this course how to connect things together, how to pay attention to hardware we run the stuff on, right? But what about economic based mathematics side? Would we spend any time on it? Thank you.
Okay, so let me perhaps clarify this. Okay, so you have people in technology, you have kind of pure quants, and you have sort of people in between. You have the quant developer people.
Yeah.
Now, quant developer people need to know how to program just as well as people in technology, but they tend to work on kind of arguably more interesting stuff. They work on libraries, how to quant libraries and also trading systems. So they need to know some of the maths, so they don't necessarily come up with models. Now, people who come up with models, they also need to be able to develop. So quant devs and quants, they need to have the skill set that people in technology have, but to a higher level, because you need to be able to structure not just infrastructure code, right? Not just code that, connect systems together, but you need to be able to, put together like a multi-megabyte trading system. Yeah, code-wise, hundreds of megabytes of code. So if you take something like Barclays and, massive systems, right, where you need to engineer them very carefully and so on. So this is, the skill set that we provide here. We show examples, right, of some of the maths, but this is not CQF and this is not MLI. we have another course, right, where we teach financial maths and machine learning, right, which is called MLI, right? And there we focus on the maths and we are much lighter on the development. Yeah, so if you want to do, okay, I want to do financial maths and I want to do machine learning and I want to know how to build these models, then you should probably go to MLI, right? If you want to understand how do I build these things, how do I program them, I want to be a quant dev or I want to be a quant who really knows how to program because I have to know how to program. Not necessarily working in infrastructure, but I could also work in infrastructure, then this is the program for you. Does that make this distinction clear?
Yeah, kinda, it does. So this is what you call quant development. It's what I call technology side. Would it be correct to say?
Okay, so quant development is not usually part of the technology departments in banks. So it's part of the front office, right? So there is this notion of being a front office programmer, right? Which is being basically a quant or quant developer who sits in the front office team rather than in a back or middle office team or in technology or operations. Okay, so there is basically this administrative difference in terms of the setup. Yeah. So this is, if you like, higher programming, like because a lot of people in technology roles, pure technology roles, would be doing scripting, perhaps maintaining systems, perhaps responding to, on-call requests. So there is a bunch of these functions that are usually regarded as part of technology. It's, you can have a fantastic career in technology, you can make a lot of money in technology, if you know how to create large groups of people, how to manage, like really difficult, complex organizations, because technology departments tend to be very large.
Sorry to interrupt you. I didn't mean that technology. I meant the front office, quant team. They usually subdivided into asset classes like Forex, equities, fixed income, commodities. And inside that front team, what I witnessed, there are math people and there are technology people.
Okay. They're not really called technology people, they're called quant devs.
Okay, this is what I meant.
So, distinguish them from the technology division. Yeah. By the way, I'm not saying, okay, so quant devs tend to be like higher paid than pure technologists, but that doesn't mean that, for example, the CTO is obviously going to be paid a lot more than sort of a juniorish quant dev. Okay, so I'm not necessarily saying that this is the career direction that you want to necessarily take, because someone like, I don't know, the CTO of Morgan Stanley, Guy Sharilla, who's a pure technologist, would be worth hundreds of millions. Yeah. So the advantage of being a front office quant dev is that your starting salary would probably be based on, like, recent service would be in hundreds of thousands, as opposed to sort of tens of thousands. And, a kind of an experienced quant dev doesn't have to manage like an army of people to be paid, I don't know, in millions. Okay. So that's basically that's the advantage of this career path, right? You don't have to be building like an entire empire. You can manage like a relatively small team, but you can be very, very highly regarded as a quant dev. And depending on the organization, the quant devs may have far more sway than pure quant analysts. If you are talking Citadel, right, the quant devs will be much more, for example, important in terms of than pure quants who don't program, right, who are pure modelers, simply because their edge is latency and, do you see what I mean? Like it's not necessarily, like, look at e-financial careers, look at, what these roles are. There are advantages to each one of them. So this is not the course to make pure modeling quants who don't program. Yeah, this is not what we're doing here. So if you want to do that, you can either look at MLI or you can look at CQF.
Is it also with your organization or it's a different?
MLI is with us, and George pretty much set up with Paul Wilmot. He pretty much set up CQF before that.
I would definitely look into this. Thank you.
Who was that Ivan?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want what I can do, if I can send you an email with the MLI brochure. Okay, and that's
That would be great. Yeah, thank you.
okay. What's your, if you don't mind, what's your surname? Your family name?
Petrov.
Okay.
P for Peter, E-T-R-O-V.
So this is a question: can you do both programs? I mean, like, if you're really committed and can devote the time to this. Okay, let me tell you like how I did my PhD and my MSc. I did it while I was running a quant team at Deutsche Bank. Okay, but it was like really difficult, right? And it was very bad for my personal life, put it that way. Okay, so I don't recommend like overdoing it, right? It is definitely doable, but I don't recommend overdoing it. Yeah, so if you want, don't do like 20 different programs at the same time. You can probably do 2 if you have a job that is not too demanding currently and does not require you to work every single evening.
Yeah, I understand that. But the fact is, I've been doing this quant development for a while, and the math finance part was kind of a mystery for me. I never was interested in this. There was always a lot of stuff to do with development, with making those models running. And it would be fun to look into that part.
Yeah. Well, the quant development part we do here. The maths part is MLI.
Yeah. I for example, I would take the module 5, that algo trading application. But that looks interesting. Yeah, it does.
You need to talk to Jeff about that.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Go for it. Fire away.
It's good. Yeah, so I was finally able to unmute myself and start my camera. Thank you for that. So my first question was that should I do MLI or should I do QDC? So obviously the very crude question would be, where are the most jobs lying? Are they lying in the MLI these days, or are they lying in the quant development these days?
Okay, so Jeff can answer it from a different perspective because he actually does recruitment as well, and he does help with. Okay, I think this is a good question, right? I mean, a good website I can recommend, and it's actually maintained by a friend of mine, is eFinancial Careers, right? So, I mean, there are salary surveys there. So you can look at how much these jobs pay, what you have to do, what the difference in kind of in roles are. I mean, I could say that it depends, first of all, on where you're working and depends on your seniority. So, if you are the CTO and, you don't need to know any maths, right? You can just program and, you can, but it's kind of difficult to get to the point of being a CTO. Okay. And it's really a management exercise. It's not so much a programming exercise. But as a quant dev, sort of an entry-level quant dev usually is very highly compensated. I wouldn't say there is a massive difference with the kind of the more mathsy side, with the more modeling side. I mean, both are currently threatened, I would say, to some extent by AI. So really, you need to know AI as well in order to, to succeed, because you can now use AI to generate code, but if you don't know how to program, you cannot assess the quality of that code. And also, you can also use it to reason about models and so on. But again, if you don't know any maths, you wouldn't be able to understand what the output of this AI stuff is. So I would say kind of, okay, I think I made the mistake of actually doing both these things rather than specializing. Okay, so I think I have worked in pretty senior roles at various institutions. I consulted and still consult, and I'm kind of in demand, right? But I mean, I would probably, if I kind of decided to stick with a particular direction, I mean, I kind of have a particular direction. It's kind of credit and it's e-trading. I have multiple kind of. You probably want to find your niche, right? So, as a C++, just okay. So let's say you don't know any maths, right? And you are a C++ developer. Like, you can easily charge $1,000 per day or if you are a good C++ developer with no maths knowledge. Okay, this is like your standard rate for a mid-level C++ dev. Okay, Python is probably significantly less, maybe less than half of this, right? But I mean, it does vary. I mean, why don't you go on LinkedIn and just look for jobs for quant devs and just look at how much they pay, right? Because they usually advertise the price range there. So I mean, you can just gather this information either by looking at eFinancial Careers salary surveys. So the question is, do you really want to spend a lot of time learning maths? If you do, then you can probably do MLI, and you know you could do both at the same time. I mean, I have been doing both for many years.
Can I,
So the question is,
add to that? On the MLI, the other differences.
you're not audible.
Oh, really? You can't hear me?
Now I can.
Okay, apologies. The MLI also has it's I would say a more intense program. It's 7 months long, but there's also, you've got 2 quants of the year on the MLI. You've got Rising Star and Quant Finance. It's a big faculty. I would say that it's probably marginally more, the brand of the MLI is bigger than the QDC.
Okay.
But the other thing is that you need to also decide not just on the financial side of things, but what would make you happier in life? Would it be machine learning, or would it be, programming? I think that's a critical question to ask. So don't just look at the dollar signs. You need to think, what's going to make me happier in life? Which would I enjoy doing more? And then you make your decision.
May I add, over a long time period.
Yeah, true.
Okay? You may think that you love maths, but will you love it after 5 years?
Gagan, yeah, go on.
So I do love maths, and I am a CQF certified with a high class rank in my cohort of CQF. So I do love maths, and I really enjoyed the CQF course. I understand that. I will definitely think about this. What will make me happy, whether it's machine learning or programming. But my question was more factual in nature. It was more a practical question, more a factual question. Where do you think are the jobs more, the volume of jobs? Where is it more? Is it in the machine learning side of things, or is it in the quantitative development side of things?
Machine learning.
Okay. Is that because the industry has changed quite a lot? Because I did my CQF 10 years ago.
I think so, yeah. So if you did your CQF 10 years ago, Gagan, then you were probably speaking, you may have been speaking to me when it came to actually enrolling onto the program. But yeah, the machine learning 10 years ago was nowhere near as vast a requirement as it is now. And that's the reason why. So you may have noticed that the CQF are trying to kind of transition, albeit slowly. They've got two
modules.
2 modules. So you see where they're heading, and there's a reason for that. So that level 1 of the CQF, I would say, is not entirely practical, actually. Level 2 is more practical, that's for sure. But if you're going to be doing, you've done the CQF, but if for those who are choosing to do the CQF in order to take advantage of those 2 machine learning modules, and they're going to be paying £15,000 to do that, well, why not do the MLI, which is pure machine learning at a much lesser cost? It's one of the reasons why I made the decision to change, to leave the CQF, is because it was as brilliant a program as it was, especially for those who enjoy maths. It's a great program, but as far as how applied it is, they're doing what they can to make it more applied. That's for sure.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jeff. I just want to ask another question for 15 seconds only.
Yeah.
A CQF with a high class rank. So which course out of these 2 will complement the CQF better? Is it MLI or is it QDC, which will complement
MLI.
my QF? Okay.
MLI.
And why is that?
Machine learning. You know, I mean, if you think about it, you mentioned the word complement the two. Well,
Yes.
the CQF has added 2 machine learning modules.
Yes.
And we have 8 machine learning modules. So that's why they would complement each other. You also need to look at the faculty of the 2 programs as well. You know, we've got Claudio Albanese on the MLI program. I think he's still doing CQF, if I'm not mistaken. You need to look at the faculty for both as well. So I would say that the MLI complements the CQF a lot more than the QDC complements the CQF. The QDC, the CQF has a separate C++ 28 lecture programming course, which is an add-on, which was done a while ago actually by Dominic somebody or other. So the QDC is maybe more complementary to this lifelong learning C++ programming course that they have as an additional part of the CQF. But it's the QDC doesn't complement go together with the CQF as well or as much as the machine learning program does.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. So Hugo, Andrea, if you've got any questions, fire away. Ivan, George as well.
Okay.
Hugo, a lot of the questions have been asked with all this talking. So it seems like this program is more for programming. Like in the module 5 says design algo training applications. You receive the model and then you just program that model. Am I right?
No, so, okay, this is, I think programming is one aspect of this, but there is also software development. So it's how do you engineer systems? Yeah, not just how to write code, it's how do you, for example, build a big software system. So kinds of programming, there is programming that you do in MLI, maybe in a Jupyter notebook, you write like your, I don't know, 20 functions and so on, but it doesn't mean that it will be a real-time trading system. We don't make you do that in MLI, right? We don't make you build like a massive trading system. We teach you how to process data. We teach you how to, you know, kind of build strategies, right? But here, it's not just programming. It's how do you engineer a massive complex system? Okay, so this is called software development or software engineering. So this is programming, software development, and software engineering.
Got it. Thank you.
So can I ask a last question? It's MLI, it's regarding MLI. So are the MLI lectures recorded as well? And does it have CQF-like functionality? Like we are provided access to the latest cohorts and the previous? Okay.
To give you an example of that, Gagan, what I offered recently to everybody who's done the MLI, I suggested to them that we've got a couple of very topical subjects on the MLI syllabus, on the new MLI syllabus. You've got ChatGPT, quantum computing, ESG, and a lot of the delegates who've already been through the MLI program, they won't have covered necessarily, well, they certainly won't have covered those topic areas. The ones who are on the current cohort would have covered or are covering quantum computing. And as far as ChatGPT is concerned, we've got lectures for ChatGPT in the next cohort beginning in October. But we're also in discussions with Bloomberg, and we think this is going to happen. It's As I say, the faculty on the MLI are genuinely world-renowned, and the discussions with Bloomberg at the moment are that they are going to be delivering some of the ChatGPT lectures, and that would be amazing if that happens. So it is, as I say, technology and everything is changing on a rapid basis. Elon Musk is having something to do with that as well, and so we're moving along with the times, and the MLI is an incredible program. We've got Matthew Dixon on it, we've got Blanca Horvath on it, we've got loads of people. I don't know if you've got the brochure, but if you want, I'll send you the brochure, and you've got all the faculty listed, or you can go on the website, and you'll see what that's all about as well.
Sure, no, definitely, Jeff. I'll just make a comment here. Definitely understand and appreciate that there's a world-renowned faculty on the MLI program. But my experience with CQF, honestly, has been that even if the faculty is not world-renowned, if the faculty is good in teaching, then the students benefits from. So for example, Riaz Ahmed, yes, is not renowned in CQF, but he teaches extremely well.
He's incredible.
Right?
He's incredible. He's a phenomenon as a teacher. With that, I know him very well. But here's what I would say to that. Having, for example, Quants of the Year teaching on the program, they won't have won the Quant of the Year award if they weren't incredibly eloquent at explaining what it is that they are very good at doing. So it goes hand in hand, Gagan, it really does. And I know what you mean with regards to the faculty on the CQF program. They're great at teaching what they teach. But the MLI is no different. They're incredible at conveying the concepts with real clarity. And, Paul is world-renowned himself, and these guys, a lot of them are his contacts as well, and he's brought them on board. They've been delighted to come on board, and honestly, they're amazing lecturers.
Sure. And can MLI be also broken into half? Like, can I do first half of the program, then give a break due to my career commitments?
We have a hard stop now. I think these are more the questions for Jeff. So thank you very much for the questions. So please carry on the discussion.
So Gagan, just to say, you can stop time like CQF. You study the MLI program or the QDC program, you can stop whenever you want. So if you've got a family issue, or if you've got a big project coming up at work, you stop at that point, you continue where you left off 6 months later. So it's very, very flexible. We urge everybody to complete the program at the first time of asking, for the obvious reason that if you give it a 6-month break, then you might have forgotten some of the stuff that you learned up until the point that you stopped. But yeah, we're flexible as far as that's concerned.
Okay.
Any more for any more? Okay. Well, look, if any questions, you might have questions that pop up about either the MLI or the QDC in the coming hours, days, weeks, whatever it might be. So if those questions pop up, then send me an email or give me a call, and we'll have a discussion, and I'll do my level best to answer your questions.
Sure.
And thanks very much for listening, Joss.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your days. See ya.